The silver ship moved quietly through the darkness of space. Inside, Captain Krinzilla looked at the blue planet on his screen. His long fingers touched the controls as he studied the information coming from his computers. This was his job. He traveled to new worlds and looked for intelligent life. His species, the Xanthari, had been doing this for thousands of years. Earth appeared on his screen like a small marble. It was mostly blue with white clouds and brown land. The computers told him that life existed on this planet. Smart life, the kind that built cities and used technology. Krinzalla felt excited. Finding new intelligent species was rare and special. Next to him sat Velthar, a younger scientist who had just joined the crew. Velthar's eyes were wide as he stared at the planet. This was his first real mission. He had studied many alien species in school, but he had never actually seen a new one before. "What do we know about them?" Velthar asked. Krinzalla touched a button and information filled the screen. "They call themselves humans. They live on the third planet from their sun. The planet has good water, breathable air, and a stable climate. The gravity is a bit higher than average, but not by much. Temperature seems comfortable. This looks like an easy world." Velthar nodded and made notes on his tablet. "What about the humans themselves? What do they look like?" The captain pulled up some images that their cameras had captured. The pictures showed creatures walking on two legs. They had no fur, no scales, no natural armor. They wore cloth coverings over their soft skin. They looked weak and fragile. "They appear to be a prey species," Krinzalla said. "Look at them, no claws, no sharp teeth, no venom. Their bodies are soft and easily damaged. They probably survived by being smart and working together in groups." Velthar agreed. He had seen many species like this before. Weak creatures that used their brains instead of their bodies to survive. They were usually peaceful and afraid of danger. They would make good members of the Galactic Federation. "Should we contact them?" Velthar asked. Krinzalla shook his head. "Not yet. The rules say we must watch them first. We need to understand their culture and behavior. Only then can we decide if they are ready to meet other species. We will land on their planet and observe them for 1 week. Then we will make our report." The ship moved closer to Earth. Krinzalla chose a landing spot in a place called Colorado. The area had mountains and forests with very few humans. It was perfect for watching without being seen. Their ship had special technology that made it invisible. The humans would never know they were there. The landing was smooth. The ship touched down in a quiet valley surrounded by tall trees. Krinzalla, Velthar, and 3 other scientists put on their equipment and left the ship. The air was thin but breathable. The temperature was cool. Everything seemed normal and safe. They set up their observation equipment on a hillside. From here, they could see for many kilometers. Their cameras and sensors could detect any human that came near. They activated their personal cloaking devices and became invisible to human eyes. For the first day, they saw nothing interesting. Birds flew through the trees. Small animals moved through the bushes. The forest was peaceful and quiet. Velthar recorded information about the plants and animals, while Krinzalla monitored the human communication signals coming from nearby towns. On the second morning, their sensors detected a human approaching. Krinzalla signaled for everyone to be quiet and still. They watched as a figure appeared between the trees. It was a male human walking alone through the forest. He wore green and brown clothing that matched the trees. He carried a long metal object that Velthar recognized as a primitive weapon, a gun. It used small explosions to throw metal pieces at high speed. Very basic technology. "His name is Jake Morrison," Velthar said, reading the translation from the human's identification device. "He works for the local government managing the wildlife in this area." They watched Jake carefully. He moved slowly through the forest, stopping often to look at the ground. He seemed to be searching for something. Sometimes he touched the dirt or examined broken branches. Velthar found this behavior strange, but made notes about it. Jake looked tired. He stopped several times to drink water from a bottle. He ate food from a small bag. He breathed heavily when he climbed hills. Everything about him confirmed what Krinzalla already believed. Humans were weak. They needed constant food and water. They got tired easily. They were clearly prey animals that had somehow developed intelligence. "Look how vulnerable he is," Krinzalla said to his team. "Alone in the wilderness with only primitive tools. On most planets, a creature like this would be someone's lunch." The other scientists agreed. They had seen species like this before. Peaceful, fragile, harmless. The galaxy was full of them. Humans would fit right in with the other weak species in the Federation. They would need protection from more dangerous species, but that was normal. Velthar recorded everything. He noted Jake's slow speed. He measured how often the human needed to rest. He documented the primitive weapon and basic equipment. All of this information would go into their report. The Federation Council would read it and decide what to do about Earth. As the sun began to set, Jake made a camp. He built a small fire using sticks and a lighter. He prepared food and ate it slowly. Then he climbed into a sleeping bag and closed his eyes. He looked so peaceful and harmless. "He's actually sleeping out here," one of the scientists said with surprise. "Doesn't he worry about predators?" Grinzala smiled. "This planet probably doesn't have many dangerous predators. The humans wouldn't survive if it did. This must be a very safe world. That explains why they evolved to be so weak. They never needed to be strong." The team took turns watching through the night while the others rested. Jake slept quietly by his dying fire. Nothing disturbed him. The forest remained peaceful. When morning came, Jake woke up and continued his journey. The Zenthari followed at a safe distance, their cloaking devices keeping them hidden. They were curious about where this human was going and what he was doing. Velthar checked their equipment and made sure everything was recording properly. This was valuable data. Every movement, every action, every behavior would help them understand this new species. He felt proud to be part of this mission. None of them suspected the truth. None of them understood what Jake was really doing in these woods. None of them realized that they were about to witness something that would change everything they thought they knew about humans. Jake Morrison was hunting, and the Zenthari were about to learn what that truly meant. The third day started with cold morning air. Grinzala and his team watched Jake pack up his camp. The human moved with purpose now, more focused than the day before. He studied the ground carefully, touching the soil and looking at marks in the dirt. Velthar zoomed in with his camera. He still did not understand what Jake was doing. The human seemed to be following something, but there was nothing visible to follow. "Just dirt and leaves and rocks. What is he looking at?" Velthar asked. Grinzala studied the recordings. "Perhaps it is a religious ritual. Many primitive species have strange ceremonies. Or maybe he is lost and trying to find his way." But Velthar was not sure. Something about Jake's behavior seemed deliberate and skilled. The human was not wandering randomly. He was tracking something, but what? The answer came at midday when their sensors detected a large heat signature moving through the forest. Grinzala checked his screen and felt a moment of concern. It was a predator. A big one. The computers identified it as a grizzly bear, one of the largest carnivores on Earth. It weighed over 600 pounds and had long claws and powerful jaws. "The human is in danger," one of the scientists said. "Should we help him?" Grinzala hesitated. The rules of observation were clear. They could not interfere unless absolutely necessary. But he did not want to watch this helpless human get killed by a wild animal. "We wait," Grinzala decided. "If the bear attacks, we will use our weapons to stun it. But only if we must. The human probably doesn't even know the bear is there." But Jake did know. The Zenthari watched in confusion as Jake changed his behavior. He moved more carefully now. He checked his rifle and made sure it was ready to fire. His breathing slowed down. His movements became quieter. "He knows the predator is near," Velthar said with surprise. "How? Our sensors barely detected it." Grinzala had no answer. Perhaps humans had better senses than the scans showed. Or perhaps it was luck. Either way, the human was now aware of the danger. Surely he would run away. That was what prey animals did when they detected predators. But Jake did not run. He moved toward the bear. The Zenthari looked at each other in confusion. This made no sense. Prey animals fled from predators. They did not approach them. Was this human broken somehow? Did he not understand the danger? For the next 2 hours, they watched something that contradicted everything they knew about prey species. Jake followed the bear's trail through the forest. He moved from tree to tree, using the terrain to hide himself. He kept the wind in his face so his scent would not reach the bear. Everything he did was careful and planned. "This is wrong," Velthar said quietly. "Prey doesn't hunt predators." "This is impossible," Grinzala said nothing. He was too busy watching and trying to understand. The human was clearly hunting the bear. But why? For food? That seemed unlikely. Humans had farms and stores. For protection? But the bear was not attacking him. Jake was the one doing the pursuing. The bear was injured. The Zenthari sensors detected an infected wound on its shoulder. This made the animal angry and unpredictable. It was dangerous to everything around it. But the Xanthari did not know this. They only knew that a massive predator was being stalked by a small, weak human with a primitive weapon. Jake reached a high point on a rocky hillside. He laid down behind some boulders and aimed his rifle down at the forest below. His position gave him a clear view of the area. He controlled the high ground. He had all the advantages, then he waited. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Jake did not move. He barely breathed. His patience was incredible. The Xanthari had never seen anything like it. Predators waited for prey, yes, but this felt different. This felt calculated and intelligent in a way that made them uncomfortable. His heart rate is dropping, one of the scientists reported. He is becoming calmer as the danger increases. This is predator behavior, not prey behavior. Crinzala felt cold fear creep through his body. They had made a mistake. A terrible mistake. Humans were not what they appeared to be. The bear emerged from the trees below Jake's position. It was huge and powerful, with thick fur and muscles that rippled as it moved. Its teeth were as long as fingers. Its claws could tear through wood. This was an apex predator, a creature at the top of its food chain. The bear sensed something was wrong. It stopped and sniffed the air. Its ears moved, listening for danger. Some instinct told it that something was watching. Jake did not give it time to figure out where he was. He raised his rifle smoothly and looked through the scope. His finger touched the trigger. His breathing stopped. The Xanthari held their breath. This was it. The human would fire and miss, and then the bear would attack and kill him. It was the only logical outcome. The weak human could not possibly defeat such a powerful predator. 3 shots rang out across the valley. The sound echoed off the mountains. Birds flew from the trees in panic. The bear fell. It happened so fast that the Xanthari almost missed it. One moment the bear was standing alert and dangerous. The next moment it was on the ground, dead. 3 perfect shots to vital areas. The human's accuracy was flawless. Jake waited for a full minute before moving. He watched the bear carefully, making sure it was truly dead. Then he stood up, approached slowly, and checked the animal. Only when he was completely certain did he relax. He pulled out a communication device and spoke into it. "This is Ranger Morrison. I have located and eliminated the problem bear in Sector 7, requesting pickup for the carcass. The animal had an infected shoulder wound. It won't threaten anyone anymore." The voice on the other end responded with confirmation. Jake sat down on a fallen log and drank some water. He looked tired but satisfied. He had done his job. The Xanthari observation team sat in shocked silence. Their sensors had recorded everything. The data was clear and undeniable. They had just watched a prey species hunt and kill an apex predator. Alone, with calculated precision, without fear. Velthar's hands shook as he reviewed the recordings. "This changes everything," he whispered. "We were wrong about them. Completely wrong." Crinzala's mind raced through the implications. If humans were hunters, then what else had they gotten wrong? What other assumptions were false? He thought about Earth's comfortable climate, the lack of obvious environmental pressures. He had assumed it was a safe world that produced weak creatures. But what if it was the opposite? What if Earth was so dangerous that only the strongest, smartest, most adaptable predators could survive? What if humans were not weak prey, but apex predators who had conquered their entire planet? "We need more information," Crinzala said. "Much more. Before we make any report to the Federation, we need to understand what humans really are. This mission is now extended indefinitely." The team continued watching as Jake Morrison waited for his colleagues to arrive. The human sat peacefully near the dead bear, completely unaware that alien scientists were having an existential crisis about his species. Velthar began accessing the galactic database, searching for any species with similar hunting behaviors. What he found made his blood run cold. The only species that hunted like Jake Morrison were classified as extreme dangers. Predators so efficient and dangerous that the Federation either avoided them completely or monitored them with military fleets. And humans were just like them. Crinzala ordered the ship to remain in orbit while they conducted emergency research. The observation of Jake Morrison had shaken everything they thought they knew about humans. Now they needed to dig deeper. They needed to understand what kind of species they were really dealing with. Velthar worked day and night analyzing every piece of data they could gather about Earth. He started with human biology. using the ship's advanced scanners to study their bodies at the cellular level. What he discovered made his fear grow stronger with each finding. Human bones were incredibly dense and strong, much stronger than Xanthari bones, even though humans looked fragile. Their muscles were efficient and powerful, designed for both strength and endurance. Their hearts and lungs worked together in a way that suggested evolution for long-distance activity. But the most disturbing discovery was their healing ability. Humans could recover from injuries that would kill most species. Broken bones would mend themselves. Cut skin would close and repair. They could even survive losing significant amounts of blood. Humans were incredibly hard to kill. "Look at this," Velthar said, showing his findings to Crinzilla. "Human teeth are designed to eat both meat and plants. They are omnivores. They can eat almost anything organic, and their digestive system is aggressive. They can consume food that would poison other species." Crinzilla studied the data with growing concern. "What about their senses?" Velthar pulled up more information. "Their eyesight is excellent. They can see in color and have depth perception like predators do. Their eyes are positioned at the front of their head, not on the sides like prey animals. This gives them the ability to judge distances accurately, which is essential for hunting." The discoveries kept coming. Human hearing could detect a wide range of sounds. Their sense of smell was better than the scans initially showed. They could detect chemicals in the air that indicated danger or food. Every sense was tuned for survival in a competitive environment. Then Velthar found information about human endurance, and this was the most frightening discovery of all. Humans could run for hours without stopping. They could walk for days. On Earth, there was a hunting technique called persistence hunting, where humans would chase animals until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. The human would just keep coming, hour after hour, never stopping, never giving up. "They are marathon predators," Velthar explained to the team. "Most predators on Earth use bursts of speed to catch prey. They sprint, catch, kill. But humans are different. They don't need to be fast. They just need to be relentless. They walk their prey to death." Crinzilla felt sick. The Xanthari were not built for endurance. If a human decided to chase a Xanthari, the human would eventually win. They could not be outrun over long distances. They could not be escaped by hiding and resting. They would just keep tracking, keep following, keep pursuing until their target collapsed. But physical abilities were only part of the picture. Velthar turned his attention to human psychology and culture. He accessed Earth's communication networks and began studying human history, art, and behavior. What he found was even more disturbing than their physical capabilities. Humans were cooperative hunters. They formed groups called tribes, teams, units, and families. These groups worked together with remarkable coordination. They planned complex strategies. They communicated during hunts using sophisticated language. They divided tasks and specialized in different roles. Their intelligence was impressive. Humans created tools to make themselves even more dangerous. The rifle that Jake Morrison carried was just one example. Humans had invented thousands of weapons throughout their history. Spears, bows, swords, guns, bombs, and missiles. They were constantly improving their ability to kill. But what really terrified Velthar was human determination. He found countless stories of humans achieving impossible things through sheer willpower. Climbing the highest mountains, crossing vast deserts, surviving in frozen wastelands. Humans did these things not because they had to, but because they wanted to test themselves. Humans called it adventure. They sought out danger deliberately. They pushed themselves to their limits for fun. What kind of species did that? Only a species so confident in their abilities that they needed to create artificial challenges to feel alive. Velthar presented his findings to the senior team in the observation room. He displayed charts and graphs showing human capabilities compared to other known species. The results were clear. Humans were not prey. They were apex predators of the highest order. "Look at Earth's history," Velthar said, showing images on the screen. "Humans have driven dozens of species to extinction, not by accident but through deliberate hunting. They killed entire populations of animals for food, for sport, or simply because those animals were competitors." He showed them pictures of Earth's megafauna, giant mammals that once roamed the planet. Mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths, all gone, hunted to extinction by early humans using primitive weapons. They hunted creatures 3 times their size. Velthar continued. They worked in groups, used strategy, and never gave up. They were so successful that they eliminated most of the large predators on their planet. Earth's current wildlife exists only because humans decided to let it survive. Crinzala looked at the data with horror. What about their wars? Do they fight each other? Velthar hesitated before answering. This was the darkest part of his research. Yes, humans wage war on each other with terrifying efficiency. They have killed millions of their own kind throughout history. They developed weapons capable of destroying entire cities. They created something called nuclear bombs that can make large areas of their planet uninhabitable. The observation room fell silent. A species that could kill millions of their own kind would have no trouble killing aliens. If humans saw the Xanthari as threats, they would eliminate them without hesitation. But Velthar had more to share. However, there is something else we need to understand. Humans are aware of their own capacity for violence. They try to control it. They created laws, ethics, and moral codes. They established organizations to prevent wars. They are predators, yes, but they are predators who are trying to be better. He showed them examples of human philosophy and art. Beautiful music, stunning paintings, powerful literature. Humans created things of incredible beauty alongside their weapons of war. They were capable of both extreme violence and profound compassion. They have a concept called humanity, Velthar explained. It means kindness, compassion, and mercy. They use their own species name to describe being good to others. They aspire to be better than their predatory nature. Crinzala studied the information carefully. Humans were the most dangerous species they had ever encountered, but they were also complex and self-aware. They knew what they were and actively tried to rise above it. We need to see how they treat each other, Crinzala decided. Jake Morrison showed us how humans hunt. Now we need to observe them in their cities. We need to see if they are just dangerous predators or if they have truly evolved beyond that. The team relocated their observation post to Denver, a large human city. From high above, hidden by their cloaking technology, they watched millions of humans living together in close quarters. If humans were truly violent predators, their cities would be war zones. But what they saw was surprising. People walked the streets peacefully. Children played in parks without fear. Humans helped each other, shared resources, and cooperated on massive projects. The city functioned with remarkable order and minimal violence. Maybe we were wrong, one of the scientists suggested. Maybe they have evolved past their predatory instincts. But Velthar was not convinced. He had learned not to underestimate humans. Or maybe, he said quietly, they are simply not threatened. We have not seen what happens when humans feel danger. We have not seen what happens when they need to protect their own. Crinzala knew Velthar was right. They needed to observe more. They needed to understand how humans responded to emergencies, to threats, to danger. Only then would they know the truth about humanity. The answer would come sooner than they expected. The Xanthari observation team spent 5 days watching Denver from their hidden position above the city. They monitored human behavior in parks, markets, schools, and workplaces. Everything they saw suggested a peaceful, cooperative civilization. Humans shared food, helped strangers, and generally treated each other with kindness. Velthar began to wonder if his earlier fears were overblown. Yes, humans were physically capable predators. Yes, they had violent history. But that history was mostly in the past. Modern humans seemed to have moved beyond their primitive instincts. They had built a society based on cooperation and mutual support. Then everything changed on the 6th day of observation. The team was monitoring a construction site in downtown Denver. Workers were building a tall office building, and the structure was nearly 40 stories high. Humans worked high above the ground, walking on narrow beams and platforms with surprising confidence. The Xanthari marveled at their lack of fear regarding heights. At exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, something went wrong. A support cable snapped on the 35th floor. The sudden release of tension caused a section of scaffolding to collapse. Metal beams fell, safety barriers broke, and several workers tumbled with the debris. Some caught themselves on emergency lines. Others were not so lucky. The Xanthari sensors detected 4 humans trapped in the wreckage. 2 were injured badly. 1 was unconscious. The 4th was pinned under a heavy beam and unable to move. The situation was critical. Crinzala expected panic. He expected the other humans to flee the dangerous building. After all, self-preservation was the primary instinct of most intelligent species. Why risk your life for others? But humans did not flee. Within seconds, workers from other floors were running toward the accident site, not away from danger, but toward it. The Zenthari watched in amazement as dozens of humans converged on the collapsed scaffolding, completely ignoring their own safety. Emergency sirens began wailing across the city. Fire trucks and ambulances raced toward the building at high speed. Police officers arrived and began coordinating the rescue. Everything happened with incredible speed and efficiency. A woman named Claire Donovan happened to be walking past the building when the accident occurred. She was a nurse on her day off, wearing casual clothes and carrying shopping bags. When she saw the collapse, she dropped everything and ran toward the building. Security guards tried to stop her. The building was dangerous. More scaffolding could fall at any moment. But Claire pushed past them and ran up 35 flights of stairs. She reached the accident site breathing heavily but immediately began examining the injured workers. "I'm a nurse," she announced to the construction supervisor, a man named Peter Hayes. "Tell me how I can help." Peter was already organizing the rescue effort. Despite having no official authority in the emergency, his experience and calm leadership made him the natural coordinator. He quickly assessed the situation and began giving orders. Workers formed human chains to pass equipment. Others carefully removed debris piece by piece. Everyone worked together without hesitation. The Zenthari observation team watched in stunned silence. This was not the behavior they expected from any species, let alone predators. These humans were risking their lives for strangers. They ran toward danger when every survival instinct should tell them to run away. "This makes no sense," one of the scientists said. "Predators protect their own offspring, sometimes their mates. But these humans are not related to each other. Why would they risk death for strangers?" Velthar had been studying human psychology.
He had a theory.
Humans are pack hunters. They evolved to work in groups. Their survival depended on the group surviving, not just the individual. This instinct is still strong. They see other humans as part of their pack, even strangers. The rescue continued for over 2 hours. Claire crawled into unstable wreckage to provide medical care to trapped workers. She ignored her own safety completely, focusing only on keeping the injured alive until they could be extracted. Her hands worked quickly, stopping bleeding and stabilizing broken bones. Other civilians joined the effort. An engineer named Greg Palmer, who happened to be nearby, used his knowledge of building structures to advise the rescue team on safe ways to remove debris. A construction worker from a different site drove his crane to the building and used it to lift heavy beams. Nobody asked for payment. Nobody expected recognition. They just helped because help was needed. The most dramatic moment came when firefighters finally reached the worker pinned under the heavy beam. The beam was too heavy to lift safely, and the structure around it was unstable. Moving it wrong could cause another collapse. Peter Hayes made a decision. He crawled under the unstable debris himself, positioned himself next to the beam, and prepared to help lift it. If the structure collapsed, he would die along with the trapped worker. But he did it anyway. "On my count," Peter said to the firefighters. 1, 2, 3, lift." 8 humans grabbed the beam and lifted with all their strength. The metal groaned. The structure shook. For a terrible moment, it seemed like everything would collapse. But the humans held firm. They lifted the beam high enough for others to pull the trapped worker free. As soon as the worker was clear, they carefully lowered the beam and retreated to safety. The entire building shuddered, but it held. Everyone was safe. The Zenthari team reviewed the footage multiple times. They analyzed every action, every decision, every moment of the rescue. What they saw contradicted everything they thought they knew about predator behavior. They sacrificed their own safety for others. Crinzala said quietly, "Not for family, not for offspring, for strangers. This is unprecedented." Velthar pulled up comparative data from other species in the Galactic Federation. No predator species showed this level of self-sacrifice for non-relatives. Even the most social species prioritized their own survival above strangers. But humans seemed to have a different calculation. The group mattered more than the individual. 3 days later, the Zenthari witnessed something even more revealing. They were observing a public park where human families gathered for recreation. Parents watched children play while they relaxed on benches. It was a peaceful scene, completely ordinary. Then a young boy, maybe 7 years old, wandered away from his parent. He walked to the edge of a river that flowed through the park. The water looked calm, but the current was deceptively strong. Before anyone could stop him, the boy leaned too far over the edge and fell in. The water immediately swept him downstream. The boy splashed and screamed, unable to swim against the current. He was being carried toward a section of rapids where rocks jutted from the water. If he hit those rocks at speed, he would die. What happened next unfolded in less than 30 seconds. But it showed the Xanthari everything they needed to know about humanity. A man named Greg Palmer was jogging along the river path. He was not related to the boy. He did not know the child or his family. But when he saw the boy fall, he did not hesitate. He changed direction in mid-stride and dove into the river. The current was strong. The water was cold. Greg fought against both as he swam toward the child. The Xanthari sensors detected his injuries as he crashed into rocks, but he did not let go of the boy. He shielded the child with his own body, taking the impacts himself. Downstream, a woman named Lisa Chen saw what was happening. She ran to the river, positioned herself on a large rock, and waited. As Greg and the boy tumbled past, she grabbed them both. She nearly lost her balance and almost fell in herself, but other humans quickly formed a chain, linking arms to create a human rope. They pulled Greg, Lisa, and the boy to safety. The child was scared but unhurt. Greg had broken ribs, cuts, and bruises, but he was smiling. He asked if the boy was okay before he would let the paramedics treat his own injuries. The boy's parents arrived, crying with relief and gratitude. They tried to thank Greg, but he waved them off. Anyone would have done it, he said. The kid needed help. But the Xanthari knew that was not true. Most species would not have done it. Most species would calculate the risk and decide it was too high. Most species would prioritize their own survival over a stranger's child. But humans were different. They ran toward danger. They sacrificed for others. They protected their pack, and their pack was their entire species. Krenzala understood now. Humans were not just predators. They were pack predators with social bonds extending far beyond normal biological limits. They would die for each other. They would fight for each other. And if anyone threatened their pack, they would become the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. The captain began writing his report to the Federation Council. His recommendation was clear. Do not contact humans. Not yet, maybe not ever. Because if humanity decided the galaxy was a threat to their pack, nothing would stop them. 6 months after leaving Earth, Krenzala stood before the Galactic Federation Council on the planet Centrum Prime. The massive chamber held representatives from 47 different worlds, each species more different than the last. Some were tall, some were small, some breathed oxygen, others required different gases, but they all shared one thing in common. None of them were like humans. Krenzala's report had caused chaos in the Federation. For weeks, the Council had debated what to do about Earth. The chamber was divided into 3 groups, and none of them agreed on anything. The first group was led by Ambassador Krethner of the Krethak Dominion. The Krethak were a warrior species covered in thick scales like armor. They understood strength and respected power, but they also feared it. The evidence is clear, Krethner said, his voice translated into the common language. Humans are apex predators. They are dangerous beyond anything we have encountered. Right now they are trapped on their planet by primitive technology, but soon they will develop faster than light travel. When that happens, they will spread across the galaxy like a plague. We must act now. We must blockade their system and prevent them from ever leaving. If they refuse to stay on their world, we must neutralize the threat permanently. Several other military species agreed. They saw humans as an invasion waiting to happen. Better to stop them now while it was still possible. But the second group disagreed completely. They were led by High Speaker Lumara of the Lumarian Communion. The Lumarians were beings of pure energy, peaceful and wise. They believed in diplomacy and understanding. Fear leads to violence, Lumara said, her voice like music. The Krethak want to attack a species that has never threatened us. Yes, humans are predators, but so are the Krethak. So are many of us. Humans have also shown great capacity for kindness and cooperation. They create art and music. They help strangers without expectation of reward. They are complex beings, not simple monsters. We should contact them now, welcome them as equals, and guide them to join our Federation peacefully. The debate continued for days. Krenzala testified again and again, answering questions and showing his recordings. The council watched Jake Morrison hunt the bear. They saw the rescue at the construction site. They witnessed Greg Palmer save the drowning child. Each piece of evidence could be interpreted in different ways. The third group supported Crinsala's original recommendation: quarantine. Do not attack humans, but do not contact them either. Simply watch and wait. Let them develop on their own. Only approach them when they proved they were mature enough to join galactic civilization peacefully. Velthar presented additional research that complicated the discussion even further. He showed evidence of human moral development over time. Their wars were becoming less frequent. Their violence was decreasing with each generation. They were learning to control their predatory instincts. Humans are aware of their own nature, Velthar explained. They study their own psychology. They understand that they have violent tendencies and they actively work to overcome them. They created laws to limit violence. They established international organizations to prevent wars. They are evolving, becoming better than their biology suggests they should be. A small representative from the Plenary Confederacy asked a simple question that nobody could answer. What will humans do when they discover they are not alone?
How will they react to meeting us?
Velthar had studied this question extensively. Humans have already imagined this scenario thousands of times in their fiction. They have books, movies, and television shows about meeting aliens. Some stories show peaceful contact. Others show wars. They have prepared themselves psychologically for both possibilities. If we approach them with honesty and respect, they will likely respond the same way. But if we approach them with hostility, or try to control them, they will fight, and humans are very good at fighting. The council debated for 6 full weeks. Different species formed alliances and made compromises. Votes were taken and retaken. Finally, the council chairman, an ancient being from the oldest civilization in the galaxy, announced the decision. The Galactic Federation has reached a resolution regarding the species known as humans from the planet Earth. We will implement a protected development zone around their solar system. No Federation vessel may approach within 10 light years of Earth without special permission from this council. Humans will be allowed to develop naturally without interference. We will monitor them from a distance. Contact will only be made when humans demonstrate both the technology for interstellar travel and the social maturity for peaceful relations with other species. This decision will be reviewed every 50 standard years. The proposal to attack Earth is rejected. The proposal for immediate contact is rejected. The quarantine recommendation is accepted. The decision satisfied nobody completely, but it prevented the worst outcomes. The military species could not attack. The peaceful species could not rush into contact that might go wrong. And humanity remained unaware that they had been judged and declared too dangerous for the galaxy. Crinsala returned to his ship feeling mixed emotions. He had prevented a war, but he knew the quarantine was only temporary. Humans would eventually reach the stars. The decision only delayed the inevitable meeting between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Velthar received a new assignment. He would continue studying humans from a safe distance. The Federation established a monitoring station on a far moon in the solar system, hidden from human detection. From there, Velthar would watch Earth and report on human progress. Years passed. Velthar watched as humans landed on Mars. He observed as they built space stations and established colonies on their moon. He monitored their communications and studied their cultural development. And he noticed something the Council had not expected. Humans were changing. Each generation was less violent than the one before. They were solving problems through cooperation instead of war. They were extending their pack loyalty beyond their own nations and tribes to include all of humanity. They were slowly becoming the peaceful, mature species the Federation hoped they would be. But they were also becoming more technologically advanced. Their scientists were developing theories for faster-than-light travel. Their engineers were building more powerful rockets. It was only a matter of time before they broke free of their solar system and ventured into the wider galaxy. 50 years after the original decision, the Federation Council met again to review the quarantine. Velthar, now an old scientist near the end of his career, presented his final assessment. Humans are ready, he told the Council. Not today, but soon. Perhaps another century. They have developed a unified world government. They have reduced their violence significantly. Most importantly, they have created a philosophy of universal rights. They believe all intelligent beings deserve freedom, dignity, and justice. They are preparing themselves to be good neighbors to whoever they might meet in space. The Council voted to extend the quarantine for another 100 years, but with an important change. They would begin preparing for eventual contact. Federation diplomats started learning human languages. Protocols were written for peaceful first contact, and plans were made for the day when humans and aliens would finally meet face to face. Back on Earth, humanity continued developing, completely unaware of the cosmic drama surrounding them. In Colorado, Jake Morrison, now an old man in his 80s, still walked the mountain trails. He had trained many young rangers over the years, teaching them to respect nature and understand wildlife. One day, a young ranger named Kyle Torres accompanied Jake on a hike. They walked through the same forests where the Zenthari had first observed Jake decades earlier. As they rested on a hilltop, Kyle looked up at the stars and asked a question that humans had been asking for generations. "Do you think we're alone out there? Do you think there's anyone else?" Jake smiled and looked up at the sky. "The universe is too big for us to be alone, son. Somewhere out there, I guarantee someone is looking back at us and wondering the same thing. When we finally meet them, we need to be ready. We need to show them the best of what humans can be. We need to prove that we can be friends, not just predators." High above Earth, invisible to human eyes, Velthar's monitoring station recorded this conversation. The old Zenthari scientist included it in his final report to the Federation. "Humans are preparing for contact," he wrote. "They understand that meeting other species will be the most important moment in their history. They want to be ready. They want to be worthy. The Federation must decide how to approach them. But that choice will determine the future of the galaxy. Approach them with respect and they will be the greatest allies we have ever known. Approach them with fear or hostility, and they will become our greatest enemy. The choice is ours." Velthar retired and returned home, his life's work complete. A new generation of scientists took over watching Earth. And the galaxy waited, wondering what would happen when humanity finally reached the stars and discovered they were not alone. 150 years after the Zenthari first discovered Earth, humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. The breakthrough came from a team of scientists working at a research station orbiting Mars. They had finally solved the mathematical problems that made interstellar travel possible. The news spread across Earth within hours. Every news channel showed the same images. The first human ship capable of traveling faster than light. They called it the Endurance, naming it after an ancient exploration vessel that had survived impossible conditions through the determination of its crew. Commander Helen Brooks stood on the bridge of the Endurance, looking at the star charts displayed on the main screen. She was a veteran astronaut with 20 years of experience in space. She had commanded missions to Mars, to the asteroid belt, and to the moons of Jupiter. But this mission was different. This mission would take humanity beyond the solar system for the first time. "All systems are ready," her engineer, Danny Foster, reported from his station. "The faster-than-light drive is functioning perfectly. We can depart whenever you give the order." Helen took a deep breath. 50 crew members waited for her command. Scientists, engineers, doctors, and pilots. The best humanity had to offer. They would travel to Proxima Centauri, the nearest star system to Earth, and see what was there. They would be the first humans to visit another solar system. "Take us out," Helen ordered. "Let's see what's waiting for us in the stars." The Endurance's drive activated. Space itself seemed to bend around the ship. Then, in an instant, they were gone, traveling faster than light, crossing distances that would have taken centuries in mere hours. 50 light-years away, alarms sounded in Velthar's old monitoring station. The new head scientist, a young Zenthari named Chrysal, stared at his screens in shock. Humans had done it. They had achieved faster-than-light travel decades earlier than predicted. Chrysal immediately sent an emergency message to the Federation Council. "Humans have departed their solar system. The quarantine has been breached. First contact is now inevitable. Request immediate guidance." The Federation Council went into emergency session. After 150 years of watching and waiting, the moment they had both hoped for and feared had finally arrived. Humans were coming to the stars. Ambassador Krethnor of the Krethak Dominion stood before the council with grim satisfaction. "I warned you this day would come. Humans are now loose in the galaxy. We must mobilize our fleets and prepare for the worst. They are predators, and predators expand their territory aggressively." But High Speaker Lumara disagreed. "Or we can welcome them as we should have done from the beginning. Send a diplomatic vessel to greet them. Show them that the galaxy is a place of peace and cooperation. Give them a chance to be the species they want to be, not the species we fear they might be." After hours of debate, The Council reached a compromise. They would send a small diplomatic ship to meet the Endurance. The ship would be unarmed to show peaceful intentions, but a Federation fleet would wait nearby just in case. They would offer humanity membership in the Galactic Federation, but they would also be ready to defend themselves if necessary. The diplomatic ship was called the Harmonious Dawn. Its captain was a Zenthari diplomat named Saranel, chosen specifically because her species had studied humans longer than anyone else. She knew human language, human culture, and human psychology. If anyone could make first contact succeed, it was her. Saranel's crew was small but diverse, representatives from 12 different species, all trained in diplomacy and first contact protocols. They had studied human history and practiced human greetings. They were as prepared as they could be. The Harmonious Dawn intercepted the Endurance near Proxima Centauri. Saranel took a deep breath and opened a communication channel using human radio frequencies. She spoke in English, her translator carefully pronouncing each word. Human vessel Endurance, this is Captain Saranel of the Galactic Federation ship Harmonious Dawn. Please do not be alarmed. We come in peace. We have been aware of your species for many years and have waited for this moment. We wish to establish peaceful contact and welcome humanity to the galactic community. On the Endurance's bridge, Helen Brooks and her crew sat in stunned silence. They had expected to find planets, maybe signs of ancient life. They had not expected to be greeted by aliens who spoke English. Helen recovered quickly. She had trained for unexpected situations her entire career. This is Commander Helen Brooks of the human vessel Endurance. We receive your message and respond with peaceful intentions. We have many questions. Saranel felt relief wash over her. The human's response was calm and rational. No panic, no aggression, just curiosity and caution. We understand you have questions. May we approach your vessel? We would like to meet you in person. Helen consulted with her crew. Some were excited, some were nervous. But they all agreed that this was an opportunity they could not refuse. You may approach. We will prepare to receive you. The two ships docked together. Saranel and two other diplomats crossed over to the Endurance. As the airlock opened, Saranel got her first in-person look at humans. Helen Brooks stood waiting with several of her crew members. They were exactly as the research described. Bipedal, no natural weapons, soft skin covered by uniforms. But Saranel also saw something the recordings could not capture. She saw intelligence in their eyes. She saw curiosity. She saw the same wonder and excitement that all species felt when meeting others for the first time. Welcome aboard the Endurance, Helen said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture. This is an incredible moment for all of us. Saranel had practiced the handshake. She reached out and grasped Helen's hand gently. The human's grip was firm but not aggressive. Thank you for receiving us. This is indeed a historic moment. The Galactic Federation has 47 member species. You will be invited to become the 48th. Over the next several hours, Saranel explained everything. She told Helen about the Galactic Federation, about the different species, about galactic law and culture. She explained that they had been watching Earth for over a century, waiting for humanity to be ready for contact. Helen listened to everything with growing amazement. You've been watching us? For how long? Saranel hesitated before answering honestly, since your species was in the early stages of space exploration. We discovered you and assessed whether you were ready for contact with other species. The Federation Council decided to wait until you achieved interstellar travel on your own. Why wait? Helen asked. Why not contact us earlier? We could have learned so much from you. This was the difficult part. Saranel chose her words carefully. The Federation was concerned about your species' history of violence. We needed to be certain that humanity would approach other species peacefully. We needed to see that you could control your aggressive instincts. Helen felt a mixture of embarrassment and defensiveness. You thought we were too dangerous? Too violent? Not too violent, Saranel corrected. Just very capable. Humans are apex predators from a competitive world. You have abilities that most species do not possess. The Federation needed to be certain that those abilities would not be used against other species. Helen understood. Humanity's history was indeed violent. The wars, the conflicts, the weapons. From an outside perspective, humans probably did look dangerous. And now? What does the Federation think now? Saranel smiled, a gesture she had learned from studying human behavior. Now we think humanity is ready. You have unified your world. You have reduced violence significantly. You have developed ethics and morals that protect all intelligent beings. You are not the species you were centuries ago. You have grown. The Federation believes humanity will be a valuable member of the galactic community. Helen felt pride at those words. Humanity had worked hard to become better. They had overcome so much of their violent past. They had earned this moment. What happens next? Helen asked. Now we invite you to Centrum Prime, the Federation capital. Your leaders will meet with the Council. Treaties will be signed. Humanity will officially join the Galactic Federation. Your species will have access to Federation technology, trade, and knowledge. In return, humanity will agree to follow galactic law and contribute to the common good. The news reached Earth within hours. Every human on the planet watched as Commander Helen Brooks stood beside an alien captain and announced that humanity was not alone. That they had been invited to join a galactic civilization of 47 other species. That humanity's journey to the stars was just beginning. People celebrated in the streets. They cried with joy. They looked up at the stars with new understanding. They were not alone. They had neighbors. They had a place in the cosmic community. In the mountains of Colorado, Kyle Torres sat on the same hillside where Jake Morrison had once hunted a bear. Jake had passed away years earlier, but Kyle remembered his mentor's words. When we meet them, we need to show them the best of what humans can be. Kyle smiled up at the stars. We did it, Jake. We're ready. We're finally ready. Far above, in the monitoring station that had watched Earth for so long, Kreisel shut down the equipment. There was no need to monitor anymore. Humanity had passed the test. They had proven themselves worthy of joining the galaxy. The Federation fleet, which had been waiting nearby in case of trouble,